Well, I want to start by mentioning several former recipients of this award. We first joined many others in sadness at the death of Alice Amsden very recently, whose work on the role of the state in newly industrializing countries was recognized by this award in 2002. More happily, we congratulate Jose Antonio Ocampo for being one of the 3 nominees and a serious contender for the next leader of the World Bank. And it is a pleasure to note that last year's recipient, Marty Weitzman, at least was going to join us for this presentation. I'm nearsighted, so I don't see if he's here, but I hope so. And also I will mention that several people sent in notes of congratulation of one kind or another. I only happen to have one in my hand, but it's nice to have one from Peter McPherson, who is the president of the Association of Public and Land-Grant Universities in this country. And also I want to mention, as Bill did, that the topics that our speakers will address are issues on which GDAE is actively working, most recently in Tim Weiss's report, Resolving the Food Crisis, Assessing Global Policy Reforms since 2007, available on our website. And by the way, I'm hoping that our speakers' remarks will be available on our website. I believe Michael's already are. Hope Peter's will be very soon. So that is very nice. Now, the Leonteif Prize is designed to recognize outstanding contributions to economic theory that address contemporary realities and support just and sustainable societies. The field of agricultural economics in general is one that tends to address contemporary realities and to support just and sustainable societies. And it's obvious that this field is needed now more than ever for a number of reasons. Global warming, or global weirding, has brought the idea of sustainability into prominence as we tip ever more perilously into uncharted, unsustainable territory. The recent financial crises have brought back into the limelight the importance of economic justice, while the accompanying food crises have reminded us that the first job of any economy should be to provide sufficient, nutritious food to everyone. We have here the 2 great agricultural economists, I would say, of the last half-century. More than a year ago, when we at GDAE began to think about centering this year's prize around agriculture, it was obvious that Peter Timmer and Michael Lipton were the leaders. But because they've led the field so long, we also thought it would be a good idea to look for young leaders in the field, and we reached out to many friends, including Peter, to ask who would they name in this category. There was no one who came near them. This is somewhat sad in that there's something close to a missing generation. But we hope that there are signs of renewed interest in it. Sustainability and justice both require healthy agricultural institutions globally and locally. For today, we feel very good about having been able to bring here the very best in the field. I'll give separate introductions to each of the speakers, but wanted at this point to note one thing that struck me as I was recently rereading with great pleasure some of their work, and that is how intelligently and usefully each of them employs the techniques available in economics to massage data and to learn from it. This is economics at its best. I will also mention 2 unique characteristics of today's awardees, one each. Michael Lipton is probably our only awardee to have been a president of the British Chess Problem Society. And Peter Timmer is almost certainly our only awardee who's had a book published by the American Enterprise Institute. Now, my introduction to Peter Timmer will be rather personal for a couple of reasons. One reason is that Peter's modesty is such that it's almost impossible to find any biographical data on him on the internet. So this lack of hard data tempts me to fall back on the comment that Peter was my favorite teacher at a time when I was just about to give up on economics as a field that had anything to do with the real world. I'm not alone in this. I believe there are a number of other people in this room who also remember Peter as their favorite teacher. When I went on to write textbooks that are designed to show how the economy relates to the social, historical, and ecological contexts in which it exists, the first box in the first chapter, page 6 in the current edition of Microeconomics in Context, quotes a now eminent economist who tells his class about a lesson he learned on his first job. Actually, that wasn't Peter's first job. He had worked in commodity trading in New York before entering a PhD program in economics. To continue that story, the young economist, unnamed, was advising the Indonesian government on its choice between two rice milling techniques. He selected the one that appeared to better achieve the economic goal of efficiency, and then discovered that that technology created only jobs that were not considered culturally suitable for women. This affected the allocation of household incomes in a way that was harmful for children's nutrition and education. Users of our textbook learn the lessons that generations of Peter's students have learned. The importance of asking deeply, what are the goals? Of not simply accepting assumptions about economic efficiency, and of considering the full context for economic activity. One of the remarkable things about Peter Timmer's work is how he has woven a deep understanding of agriculture, especially rice, into a broad understanding of historical trends and theoretical realities. In fact, I think he actually prefers to be considered an economic historian, a preference that could be related to the fact that he's responsible for much of the economic history of Indonesia over many decades. In 1992, he received the Bintang Jasa Utama, the highest merit star, from the Republic of Indonesia for his contribution to food security. I mentioned that he had a book published by the American Enterprise Institute. That was probably because they did not read carefully enough the title of his 1986 book, Getting Prices Right, The Scope and Limits of Agricultural Price Policy. Peter, as you will doubtless hear in his talk, has great respect for the power and scope of markets and prices. He also recognizes very well their limits. His other best-selling books in capitals, as you can discover on Amazon when you give up looking for them elsewhere on the web, include the great standard text from 1983, Food Policy Analysis, and his most recent book, I think, published in 2009, A World Without Agriculture, The Structural Transformation in Historical Perspective, a book that uses history as a framework for understanding the political economy of agricultural policy. Peter always has many projects going on at the same time. In addition to his research and writing, at present 1/3 of his time, that's probably about 8 hours a day, is devoted to advising the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation on agricultural development issues. I hope he will achieve as much good there as he has done in advising governments in Indonesia, Vietnam, and a number of other Asian countries. We are delighted and honored to have him with us today, and I will now hand him the plaque that goes with this award, and which we will send home for you so you don't have to have it in your luggage. So please